for remaining and being who he is, consistent and constant. I think in the last remaining pillar of PDP, as far as I can remember at this time, against all odds, he stayed, and he's still staying. But for some of us, when the iron was too hot, we left. So I'm very pleased to meet you and see you here. And my friend, when we speak on phone sometimes, Alhaji Muhammad, we have been in the trenches with him for quite some time before all of us ended up in government. Benny Additional was also a colleague in government. And a host of others. I'm very pleased to meet them, to remember the old good days. Days are always good, depending on who you are and what you want to be. So let me start my address by acknowledging the president of GOCOP and the other executive members of GOCOP and the fellow members of GOCOP. I am honored to be here today as your keynote speaker. Let me begin by commending the Guild of Corporate Online Publishers for consistently creating platforms where we can have honest conversations about the future of our democracy. The theme of this year's conference, Reconciling Campaign Policies with Governance Realities, Challenges and Prospects, could not be more timely. Democracy is built on promises. During campaigns, politicians aspiring to various leadership positions speak of jobs, better schools, security, electricity, and prosperity. These promises inspire hope and mobilize citizens. It is after elections that the real test begins, translating those promises into actual governance. It is at this point that the gap emerges. Citizens who are full of hope during campaigns are often confronted with realities that seem far removed from what was promised. This tension between hope and disillusionment has been one of the defining features of politics in Nigeria and in many African countries. Having served as Speaker of the House of Representatives and later as Governor of Katsina State, I have seen both sides of the coin. In the legislature, I saw how citizens' aspirations are transformed into policies, laws, and oversight functions. In the executive, I experienced the complexities of implementation, limited resources, competing demands, and unexpected desires and crimes. From these experiences, I came to the conclusion that while campaign promises are necessary to inspire hope, governance realities require tough choices, careful prioritization, and sometimes painful trade-offs. It is these trade-offs that are sometimes, or even most often, regarded as unfulfilled promises. In addition, there are several reasons why campaign promises often fail to translate into outcomes. Many manifestos are aspirational documents not grounded in the reality of available resources or institutional capacity. Fiscal constraints are also a big factor. Campaign promises hinge on the resources available to any country. In many African nations, and more especially in our own case, budgets are still heavily dependent on a single commodity, oil. Yet, as we all know, the price of oil is beyond our control. It is volatile, shaped by global market forces, geographical tension, and other complex and unpredictable factors. We saw the stark reality of this in 2016. The national budget was benchmarked at around $38 per barrel, but the international price of oil plunged below $25 per barrel, which is below the cost of production. The sudden dip created revenue shortfalls, forcing difficult trade-offs. To the average citizen, these trade-offs could easily be misconstrued as broken promises, when in fact they were simply the unavoidable outcome of a volatile global economy. Beyond resource volatility, there are unforeseen emergencies that force government to record their priorities. Take 2019 as an example of COVID-19 struck. The world was brought to a standstill as nations fought desperately to save lives. Plans and promises across all sectors were suspended or slowed because survival became the first priority. When such crises consume time, energy, and resources, campaign promises inevitably suffer. Emergencies are not limited to global pandemics. Here in Nigeria, insecurity remains a persistent challenge. It undermines production, disrupts livelihoods, and reduces national revenues. At the same time, it compels government to divert enormous resources towards security operations. Insecurity, like climate change and natural disasters, are rarely predictable, but when they arrive at our doorsteps, they cannot be ignored. They reshape priorities, often at a great cost to original campaign commitments. Another major issue of weak institutions. Another major issue is weak institutions. Even when funds are available, corruption, bureaucracy, and inefficiency can derail delivery. Add to this the pressure of short electoral cycles, where leaders are pushed to show quick results, often at the expense of long-term reforms, and the gap widens further. Let me illustrate with a familiar example in recent years. Nigeria embarked on the bold step of removing the fuel subsidy. The policy was designed to free up resources for critical development projects and to place our economy on a more sustainable path. In principle, this reform was necessary and forward-looking. However, like many reforms of this nature, across the world, it also came with immediate adjustments. Transport costs rose, food prices increased, and citizens felt the unexpected accompanying pain. In the build-up to 2023 elections, virtually all major presidential candidates pledged to remove the subsidy and to realign the exchange rate of the naira as part of the necessary step to restore our economy. These were difficult but inevitable measures. The challenge, however, was that the, the challenge, however, was that their consequences were not fully interrogated in the public space. Citizens were not adequately prepared for the temporary hardship and reform such reforms could bring. It it is only now with implementation that the pains are being fully felt. Yet the truth is that whichever candidate had emerged victorious, these measures would have been unavoidable. Unfortunately, for many citizens, the short-term discomforts are viewed as broken promises. Across the continent, we see similar patterns. In South Africa, for instance, there are promises of rapid job creation and economic transformation after the end of apartheid. Some progress has been made, but unemployment and inequality remain a stubborn challenge. Citizens continue to feel that the speed of delivery is not matched by the scale of promises. The lesson in this case is clear. When promises are ambitious, but delivery is slow, citizens facing democracy begins to weaken. Even advanced democracies face this challenge. Let me recall one famous example in 1988. George W. Bush Sr., then a candidate for President of the United States, made a powerful pledge at the Republican National Convention. He said, and I quote, read my lips, no new taxes. That promise became the centerpiece of his campaign. But once in office, faced with mounting deficits, he had no choice but to introduce new taxes. The backlash was severe, and it contributed significantly to his defeat in the next election. The lesson here is that even in countries with stronger institutions, promises can be jettisoned when confronted with economic realities. The difference, however, is that in mature democracies, institutions are more resilient, the public service is more professional, and the citizens have clearer mechanisms to hold the leaders to account. So how do we bridge this gap between what is promised and what is delivered? First, political actors must campaign with responsibility. The media must interrogate itself on the be non-partisan. Campaign promises should be realistic, costed and achievable within the available resources. Unrealistic pledges made merely to capture the mood of the electorate should be challenged and exposed. Only then can we begin to elevate our political culture and make sure that the process justifies the end. Second, governance must be anchored on strong institutions. With capable institutions, policies can be implemented more consistently and transparently. Third, there must be honest communication with citizens. Leaders should explain the trade-offs, why certain promises may take longer, why resources must be reallocated, and how progress will be measured. Fourth, citizens themselves, including civil society and the media, must understand realities and properly communicate these realities in addition to holding leaders accountable. They should track promises and demand transparency instead of creating sensational headlines to attract followers, especially now that the number of followers translates into monetary gain. This is why journalism at its best, and more specifically GOCOP, in this digital age becomes indispensable. You and your profession are the bridges between the leaders and the people. You shape narratives, hold the leaders accountable, and track progress. Your platforms can create promise trackers that record what was pledged and what has been delivered. You can explain complex policy challenges to citizens in plain language, and you can amplify examples of good governance, showing that it is possible to keep promises while institutions are strong and leaders are transparent. In conclusion, reconciling campaign promises with governance reality is not just about avoiding embarrassment for politicians. It is about protecting the integrity of democracy itself. If citizens repeatedly see promises made and broken, they lose faith in the system. But if they even see modest progress explained honestly and delivered consistently, they will continue to believe in the promise of democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, let us therefore commit as leaders, as citizens, and as media practitioners to narrowing this gap. Let our promises be realistic, our expectations be modest, our governance transparent, and our accountability strong. In doing so, we can transform hope into progress and democracy into a vehicle of real change. Thank you, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Once again, please let's give a warm round of applause to our keynote speaker, the Right Honorable Aminu Bello Masari. Thank you very much, sir. That was thoughtful and enlightening. I introduced some people from the NOA earlier, so please I'd like to also add to the introduction I did earlier. Also from the NOA, we have Alhaji Bala Musa, Director of Communication and Media. You are welcome, sir. We also have Aruna Sule, Director of Finance, Accounts and Account Department. Where is it, please? Is Director of Finance? Please, okay, it's over there. There must be a reason why he's trying to make himself incomplete. But we've seen you. We've seen you. We know you. We know your office address. Thank you very much, sir. We also have Kenneth Onyepeju. Please forgive me. I don't do this normally. Kenneth Onyepeju, Director of Procurement, NOA. Okay. Okay. No, stand up, stand up, stand up. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so now, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we now move to the panel session. And we have a robust panel of discussants to dissect what we have just listened to. They will build on these ideas and offer practical insights into challenges and prospects of campaign promises and delivery. So please join me. I'll start by inviting to the stage our moderator for today. He is the publisher of Political Economist. You can imagine somebody combining politics and economy. The publisher of Political Economist, Mr. Ken Ubechi. Mr. Ken is a veteran and accomplished journalist. You are welcome, sir. Okay, as stated earlier, you'll be joined by Malam Issa Unilu, Director General, National Orientation Agency, NOA. You are welcome, sir. Thank you very much. Also coming on stage is Professor Abigail Ogweze Ndisika, Director of Institute of Continuing Education, University of Lagos, Unilag.